Welcome back to the online sessions on signals and systems. So in the previous sessions, we discussed about the introduction to the Z transforms. So before we really go into the Z transforms, let us try to have some more basic concepts of Z transforms. So we have seen Fourier transforms and we have seen Laplace transforms. So Z transforms is also going to one of the method used normally to transform time domain signal into the frequency domain signal. So just before this transforms, we have seen Laplace transforms, which are represented in the S domain, as we have represented S is equal to sigma plus j omega in a rectangular coordinate system. So where the Laplace transform of x of t we have written as already x of s is equal to integral of x of t power minus st dt over the limits minus infinity to plus infinity. And the same x of s I can write as equal to s can be represented as sigma e to the power s can be represented as equal to sigma plus j omega for Laplace transforms, and we represented this as e power sigma t e to the power minus j omega t dt. And this you can write as this x of t into e power minus sigma t. If you take this as a signal multiplied by e power minus j omega t dt, this should be minus j omega t dt, and this is nothing but the Fourier transform of this function. So therefore, I can write x of s is equal to Fourier transform of x of t into e power minus sigma t, where sigma is normally going to be known as a convergence factor. So based on the value of sigma, the Laplace transform is normally going to exist. So this is what we have seen when we discussed about Laplace transforms, and we have concluded that Laplace transforms are represented in a rectangular coordinate system. And let us look into the Z transforms. Now, we have seen earlier that the continuous time Fourier transform is normally uh, is normally being generalized to get a Laplace transforms. So the generalization formula we have taken as S is equal to sigma plus j omega, where continuous time Fourier transform is normally going to depend on just j omega. Laplace transform depends on sigma plus j omega. So therefore, what is this Laplace transform is really doing? It is simply going to provide more features than the Fourier transforms, continuous time Fourier transforms. So therefore, the Laplace transforms are normally going to enlarge the capabilities of the Fourier transforms here to handle much wider class of signals and systems. So let us have a look about the transforms. So why we normally use transforms? So transforms are used to represent time domain signals to the frequency domain signals. So we have in that process discussed about continuous time Fourier transforms, which are known as basically Fourier transform that we discussed. And it normally going to represent the continuous time signals in the j omega axis. And we have seen Laplace transforms are also going to represent the continuous time signals, but in a sigma plus j omega axis. Now let us look into Z transforms. Z transforms are normally going to represent the discrete time signals. That is, it transforms the time to the frequency into a discrete time sequences. So therefore here we make an extension from discrete time Fourier transforms to the Z transforms. So how we make such extension from discrete time Fourier transform to the Z transforms? It is similar to the extension that we have made from continuous time Fourier transform to Laplace transforms by simply adding sigma in a rectangular coordinate system. We got a Laplace transform from the Fourier transforms. Exactly similar to that, we normally going to get a Z transforms from the discrete time Fourier transforms. So discrete time Fourier transform is going to be the last unit for us to discuss. So therefore, let us write this transformation now. So in this transformation, what we can see x of the the transformed domain of the signal, you can write as equal to sigma of x of n e to the power minus j omega n, where x of n must be absolutely summable. So this is the basic form of the discrete time Fourier transforms. So if you represent x of omega here, if you write omega, it is nothing but continuous time Fourier series representation, continuous time Fourier transform representation. So if you use here as discrete value, something like n into omega s, then it is going to be called as a discrete time Fourier transforms. Now we are discussing in terms of the Z transforms. So therefore, we know already a basic form, that is e power j omega is equal to 1. That means if you find out the absolute value of e power j omega, we normally going to get this value as equal to 1, because we know e power j omega is nothing but equal to cos j omega plus j sin omega. So modulus value of that is nothing but equal to what? No, under root of cos square theta. It is the form of cos square theta plus sin square theta. We know the trigonometric relationship for under root of cos square theta plus sin square theta is equal to 1. So therefore, this value we can say at is as equal to 1 over here. Now I can represent e power j omega for the in the polar coordinates as r into e to the power j omega. When r is equal to 1, then it's simply going to be transformed into discrete time Fourier transforms. If r is not equal to 1, then it results into the new transform, which is known as the Z transform, under discussion that we are going to do now. So Laplace transforms works on what? Rectangular coordinates. Z transforms works on the polar coordinates. So these two are the conclusive remarks on the Laplace transforms and the Z transforms. So we can write x of capital Z is equal to x of n e to the power j omega minus n. This is the representation of the Z transforms. Okay. So this e to the power j omega we can represent for Z transforms in polar coordinates as r into e to the power j omega all to the power minus n. So for n number of discrete values, we normally going to have this particular thing. So therefore, I can represent the Z transform as something like this with this formula. So finally, I can write this as sigma of x of z. So this z is represented as capital K letter and the small z is represented as here. This is small z representation. So the z which comes inside the summation is nothing but small z. The z comes after the result. Okay, it's called a capital Z. So just like the Fourier transforms, you represent as x of capital omega is equal to integral of x of t to the power minus j omega t dt. Similar formula we can represent like this here. So therefore, I can just simply represent like this in that particular form. Now this I can write as Z transform x of n. So this is the general representation where I can write Z is equal to r into e to the power j omega, where Z is nothing but equal to r into e power j omega represented in the polar coordinates. So therefore, x of n I can write as going to form a Z transform pair as x of capital Z. So Fourier transform of x of n becomes equal to Z transform of x of n, provided if Z becomes equal to e to the power j omega when r is equal to 1. So that means the discrete Fourier transform becomes equal to Z transform when Z becomes equal to e to the power j omega. It is similar to the continuous time Fourier transform becomes equal to Laplace transform when sigma is equal to 0. So it is exactly analogous to that particular thing over here. So now we represented in the previous session about the reason of convergence of a Laplace transforms by taking the strips, taking the strips which are going to be perpendicular to the sigma axis. That means when sigma is equal to some constant value, over that we normally going to get the region of convergence. Okay, and we represented the strips here like this, and we have considered the region of convergence based on the problem statement given to us. Now, similar to the representation of Laplace transforms, we are also going to have the region of convergence for the Z transforms. Now, here in the case of Z transforms, here always we normally going to have a unit circle, because when R is normally going to, when mod Z becomes equal to 1, that means when R is equal to 1, we get mod Z is equal to 1. So it is normally going to form a unit circle. This is the circle known as simply a unit circle. So the region of convergence is normally going to exist with respect to this particular unit circle always. So therefore, I can expand the Z transform of Z transform as x of z is equal to x of n into e power minus z. So small z I can write as is equal to r into e to the power j omega n. So I can expand this with to the power minus n, and I can write this as x of n into e to r to the power minus n e to the power minus j omega n. So finally, I can say x of z is equal to just like a Fourier transform of x of n into r to the power minus n. where f of x of n may or may not exist for certain values of r. So here the Fourier transform of x of n may or may not exist for certain values of r. So that means whereas this x of n into r to the power n is going to exist for certain values of n, whereas f of x of, even though f of x of n may not exist, but f of x of n into r to the power minus n may exist for certain values of r. So this is the conclusion remark we can make with this. So therefore I can speak about ROC here based on this. So the region of convergence is the region where the x of z converges. That means it should really going to give us a value. So x of e to the power j omega becomes equal to x of z for z is equal to e to the power minus j omega. Now for the discrete Fourier transform x of n to exist, this x of z ROC must include the unit circle mod z is equal to 0. So a reason of convergence we are always going to consider with respect to the unit circle here. So therefore I can write about ROC as ROC is nothing but region of z for which x of z always converges is known as the region of convergence for us. So we can just take up a small problem here. So z transform of a to the power n into u of n. U of n is known as a discrete unit step signal, unit step sequence. So where the value of unit step sequence are going to exist only from n is equal to 0 to infinity. Thereby we can just simply substitute, replace u of n as equal to 1 over the limits n is equal to 0 to infinity. Thereby, I can simply convert the two-sided spectrum into a single-sided spectrum. And this spectrum is simply known as a right-sided spectrum. I can simply write over here. So finally, I can write x of z is equal to sigma of a into z inverse whole to the power n. So which is nothing but the final z transform representation of the given signal. So now I can represent this as something like in terms of a into r to the power n, and I can write this as something like is equal to 1 by 1 minus a to the power a into z to z inverse. So this is the basic representation of the polynomial. So we discuss more about this polynomial representation in the further discussions to come. And I can simply write this as, that means x of z, if I write in terms of this a into r to the power n, I can expand something like a plus ar square, so on, if mod r is normally less than equal to 1. I can represent this, the z transform of the function given is equal to 1 by 1 minus a to the power a into z inverse. So this a into z inverse should be less than 1 for a ROC to exist. So therefore here mod a normally going to be less than z, and z is normally going to exist for greater than a. So this unit circle is normally going to have a radius of a, and the ROC is normally going to exist in all the regions which is going to be outside the unit circle. So this is what the representation of the ROC and representation of the Z transform of the signal. Well, in the previous class, what we discussed is we discussed about advantages, limitations of Z transform, and how to represent a given sequence in a Z transform form. So what are the advantages of Z transform? Z transform normally going to convert the difference equation of a discrete time system into linear algebraic equations, so that the analysis becomes easy and simple for us. And convolution in time domain is simply converted into multiplication in the z domain, same as the Fourier transform basic property here, where the convolution in time domain is nothing but equal to multiplication in the frequency domain we discussed. That is one of the property of the Z transform. Similarly, same thing is going to be true in the case of Z transform as well. So Z transform exists for most of the signals for which discrete time Fourier transform does not exist. So this is what the advantage of the Fourier transforms, Z transforms. So wherever the Fourier transform is not going to exist, that means under some limitations, Z transform is normally going to exist for that particular type of the systems and signals. Now, what are the limitations? Limitation is going to be same as the Laplace transform limitation. That is, frequency domain response cannot be achieved and cannot be plotted. So instead, we represent that in the polar coordinates, okay, in a z plane. So now let us, in the previous class we discussed about representation of the z transform for the following sequences. When a sequence is given to us something like 1 2 3 4 5 0 7, and x2 of n is equal to 1 2 3 4 5 0 7, like this it is given. Now the difference here is that the initial point has been given over here at 4. That means the 4 is nothing but is equal to x2 of 0 is nothing but is equal to 4. x2 of 0 is nothing but equal to 4. So therefore, this is going to be at x2 of 1, x2 of 2, and x2 of 3. It's going to become x2 of minus 1 minus 2 component minus 1 component. So thereby, I can just simply expand with the general, the Z transform relationship as x of z I can write as equal to x of n into z to the power minus n is the general form. So just now in the previous slides we discussed about the derivation for this particular x of z, okay, from the Laplace transform. So that means we derived z transform from the Laplace transform basic form, and we just represented as x of z is equal to sigma of x of n into z to the power minus n. Now we can just expand this summation and substitute the values, and we discussed that we'll be getting this kind of a z transform representation. And now we normally go with the Z transform some common sequences. So just like we discussed about the Laplace transforms of common sequences like impulse signal, unit step signal, here also we discuss about the common sequences. Z transform of the common sequences which we'll be using in many places. So therefore, let us say that your common signal is going to be the unit sample sequence. What is unit step signal? Is something like unit impulse signal. Unit impulse is basically continuous time signal, and a unit sample sequence is basically the discrete time kind of a sequence for us. So therefore I can write x of n is equal to sigma of n. Sigma of n value is normally equal to 1 for n is equal to 0, and the value is going to be equal to 0 for all n not equal to 0. So therefore x of z is equal to what we can write, sigma of x of n into z to the power minus n, where x of z is equal to 1 into z to the power 0, which is nothing but equal to 1 for n is equal to 0. So that means for all z values, we normally going to get the value of x of z is equal to 1. So therefore, ROC is the entire z plane. Entire z plane is normally going to have the ROC for this delta of n. That means whenever we multiply any signal with delta of n, the ROC is normally going to exist over the entire z plane for us. That is the conclusive remark here for the Z transform of the unit sample sequence. The next one is going to be unit step sequence. So step sequence means what? U of n. U of n value is normally equal to 1 for all the values n greater than or equal to 0, and value is going to be 0 for all n less than 0. That is what the basic unit step sequence basic form. So therefore I can write a right sided spectrum, okay, as something like sigma of u of n z to z inverse n is equal to 0 to n. Sorry, now we can substitute now u of n is equal to 1. So therefore 1 into z to the power 0, 1 into z to the power minus 1, 1 into z to the power minus 2, so on. And I can expand this as equal to 1 by 1 minus z inverse as a polynomial. And I can write this something like as 1 plus z to the power 0 is something like 1. So 1 plus 1 into z inverse means what? I can write this as 1 by z. Z to the power minus 2 means 1 by z square. So on I can write as something like this, and this form I can write as z inverse means what? I can write as 1 by z. So when I take LCM here, z will go to the numerator. I can write this as z by z minus 1 I can write as. So the above series is normally going to converge if mod z inverse is always less than 1. So this is the condition which you are always going to consider. This mod z inverse should be less than 1 for a series to converge. Now when I substitute that, I can write as 1 by z less than 1, and therefore I can write as something like z is normally going to be greater than 1. So the region of convergence is normally going to lie for all the unit circle above greater than 1. So for a radius of 1, that is what the basically the region of convergence is going to be there for the Z transform. That means the solution of this particular Z transform is normally going to lie over the region for all mod z greater than 1. So this is what the basic form which we can have for the unit sample sequence. Then next important sequence is going to be the unit ramp sequence. So ramp signal means what? Continuous ramp signal is normally going to vary with respect to time. So here also unit ramp sequence means what? Continuously it is going to increase or vary with respect to n. So therefore unit ramp sequence I can write as x of n r of n is equal to n into u of n I can write. So general form of the ramp signal is going to be what now? Sigma of r into n, r of n into z to the power minus n, where n is going to take values from minus infinity to plus infinity. So we know r of n is normally equal to n for all n greater than or equal to 0, and is equal to 0 for all n less than 0. So let us expand that. When you expand that, we normally going to once again going to get a right-sided sequence for us. So I can just have a right-sided sequence like this here, and I expand here for n is equal to 0, n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, 3, 4, 5 like that, and finally I can expand it something like this. So where I can write this as something like 0 into something is 0, and I can inverse z inverse as 1 plus 2 into z inverse plus 3 into z to the power minus 2, and so on I can write. And this form I can write as equal to z inverse into 1 minus z inverse of whole to the power minus 2 I can write. That means it is something like rearranging the equations so that I'll be getting into the general form of the z transform like this. So z inverse of 1 by 1 minus z inverse whole square I can write. This minus 2 will be coming in the denominator. I'll be having like this. X of z is equal to I can write therefore z by, so z by 1 minus z whole square, z inverse whole square I can write. Now here I can write this as 1 minus z inverse of square greater than should be greater than equal to 0 for ROC to exist. So therefore I can write as here from by solving this 1 would be greater than z inverse I can have. Okay, then that is mod z would be greater than 1. So that means the ROC is the exterior of the unit circle in the z plane I can just simply going to have. So this is what the ROC, that means ROC is same for the unit ramp signal and also the unit step sequence, right? So this is what that means. Even though the z transform is different, but ROC is normally going to be same for these two sequences. Okay, so in the next session what we do is we'll discuss some of the other varieties of the problems on the z transforms. Thank you very much for the today's session.